All right, welcome back to another episode of StichMethod. Before we begin, I want to say just a quick couple things. Number one, I know my channel is really geared toward the improvisation part of guitar, and this lesson is going to be a little bit different, but nonetheless, I think a very important lesson. Number two, the reason I'm bringing this lesson to you is I've been bringing a lot of my students' individual lessons that I teach them, and they have great questions. And when I find a lesson that's really good and I think can apply to a lot of people who watch this and benefit them, I'm going to do it. And this is one of them. So, I really don't know what I'm going to title this episode, but the idea of being as smooth as you can be and understanding how to do it, and also understanding how to tell if you are doing it or not, and whether or not you just sound good when you play. I've known a lot of people, I teach people, I've seen people, I've heard through comments and questions that they can play a song, but it still doesn't sound good to them. And what I mean by that is, you have a song, but it sounds choppy. And I want to get that choppiness out of your playing. And I want to show you how to do it. We're going to do a couple of things, probably two things with some chords and one thing with some scale work to help you tether yourself better to the act of being smoother. So let us begin. All right. Now, when you think about being smooth on guitar, you got to realize kind of the two worlds. I'll lower my volume. The two worlds of the notes that are involved in music. And we can divide them into kind of just two categories, one being staccato, one being legato. And you might have some things in between, but staccato meaning the notes have a definite end and a space. And in staccato, you think of like bop, 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 bop. And in legato, it's when the notes kind of are smooth and blend together, like do, and you hear me singing these things. And so you have to be able to, believe it or not, say these things or hum these things or think these things to yourself before you even try to do this on the guitar. And so what I try to teach my students is the idea of a welded note versus a non-welded note, because it makes a better analogy. And hello to Barry and I believe Jeff, who I'm teaching this to. When you think of two notes next to each other, you can have space in between them, one here, one here. And this is what we call staccato. And this sounds like on guitar something like, let's see, like, where you can hear the dead spaces in between it. And there's plenty of songs and plenty of moments that have that. And a lot of people think that legato is when you kind of push these two together, but when you push the two together, there's still like a seam there. And if you just think of them as closer and try to get the notes closer, you're not going to get the legato feel that we want. Legato is when notes are blended together. And so instead of thinking, I'll put my pick down for a second, instead of thinking of two notes kind of next to each other, think of two notes that are welded together. And the way that you can really try and understand this is by humming staccato or singing staccato notes like bop, 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 and see how your lips close. Bop, bop, and that's the space between it. But legato is when you have one breath, you have one breath and the note changes. Ooh, terrible singer, right? Ooh. And the idea is I didn't close my mouth. I kept the notes or the breath going. So being able to sing along with your goal is very, very, very important to getting a smooth sounding guitar. So let me show you what we're going to do first. And this is one practice that I used to love to do, and I hope this benefits you if you feel like your playing is clunky. All right, so we're going to start with the C chord here on the 8th fret, a regular E-shaped C chord right there, okay? There it is, regular bar chord, pardon me, rogue mustache hair. And the idea is what I want you to try and do is I want you to try and place your first finger only on that root note, the 8th fret of the E string, kind of like this, and then form the rest of the chord while letting that note ring, okay? And I'll do it again so you can hear it. I'm going to let this note will not die, okay? If you can do that, you're well on your way. But if you can't do that, if you do something like this, then we need to work on your smoothness. And so the idea here is you want to hear that note. You want to breathe through it. And you have to try and twist your finger and kind of get that note to be, to keep ringing while the rest of the chord comes down. It is hard, but you want to try and do this. You kind of want to sing along. The sing-along helps you identify if you've done it. Now the next chord I want you to go to is going to be an A minor bar chord, which is going to be the standard E minor shaped bar chord. All right, and we're going to do a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression, and you're going to be A, let that note ring, and get that chord down. If you can't do this, then this is a sign that your fingers aren't staying on the notes that need to be stayed on while you're reaching for other notes. And we'll get towards some scale work too, but I'm trying to show you that if you can't do this, you want to work on this. Now, speaking of working on this, shameless plug, I have a Patreon page now, which I do love, called Bonus Lessons and Practice Sessions with Stitch, where I will be doing about 3 to 5 practice sessions on how I practice exactly this stuff, all of it discussed in the video. You can check it out, link below. Enough about that, but I do love it, and a lot of people do too, blah, blah, blah. Here we go. So here is the A minor. You can hear I'm letting this note ring. We're going to go down to an F, okay, and let that note ring. And you gotta try. Look how I'm pivoting, I'm moving, I'm keeping the pressure on that note, and up to a G. So you want to practice this 1, 6, 4, 5. It's a C, A minor, F, and G. It's called a 1, 6, 4, 5 progression in C. And you want to see if you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And keep that bass note moving. Or sorry, ringing. Minor would work. Why do I teach? Again, this is the litmus test. If you can do this, go have fun watching another video. That's how I'd start to see, whether or not my student, me, you, whatever, are really paying attention to how we need to develop our muscles and our ability to stay still. Now, the next thing we're going to work with is a hybrid chord movement and a little bit of scale. It's a very famous chord progression. If I can play it right. There it is. So this is the chord progression to a very famous song, Take 5. Now, the idea here, I'm going to show you how I'd practice this and whether or not you can tell your staccato from your legato. Now first, if you listen, if you were to hum this to someone who never heard it, and you say, well, it kind of goes boot up, boom, boom, boot up, boom, boom. The idea is you can hear those staccato notes, boot up, and so let's start with that. You have a B minor, 6th fret, A minor shaped bar chord right here, and you can go boom, bop, and kind of let go of that pressure, right? Boom, bop, let go of the pressure there, and then do it again. And all I'm doing to end that staccato note is to let go of the pressure, not come off, but now, legato, 6th fret of the E string, to 9th fret, and these notes are so close together in time, they're almost welded together. Now I do have to go boo, do, and I make a D note, and the reason I'm doing this with my tongue, I know it sounds weird, is because I'm not really stopping, and I'm not closing my mouth, I'm not going bop, bop, I'm letting it ring, but da da, and you can hear my tongue is creating the new note, but it's a single breath. So you want to realize that if the song has a single breath to it or a moment, and so let's talk about this. This 6th fret plays, it totally stays, it does not move. This is about stretching, all right? And then it comes up to here, to the 9th fret, and the moment you go to pluck this note, the finger needs to come down. This pinky and this pick need to be synced up. And the first finger cannot move. It needs to have the pressure down there. If you find yourself doing this and coming off, that's staccato. If that first finger moves, staccato. You want legato. Hold it, pluck. Look at that left hand of mine coming off on the chord, holding the first finger down the entire time on that riff. Now, these are things that you need to test out whether you can do it or not. Because if you can't do it, it's showing me, it's showing you that your fingers aren't saying, well, I can stay here while you move. You know, I can hold on to this note when you come up here. What it's really saying is, man, I need to practice stretching so I can stay smooth, because smoothness is about welding the notes together. And if there's any sort of gap, you don't have a welded kind of section. So now, how do we do this with kind of scale work? Well, I'll give you 2 scale things to practice. One of them is my favorite thing that I used to practice. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole thing. You can find, I'm sure, videos and tutorials on it, but I'm not even going to name the band. I'm just going to show you what it is, and I'll show you the phrase. It's a very legato sequence. I'm probably going to screw it up, but here we go. You want to practice this. Just that. And try to make this as smooth as possible. So I'm going to hum this song. And notice how I'm using the word do's, do, because I'm not going bop, 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 bop. If I use the word B, and this is important, this is very important, if you use a B sound in your description of the song, that's staccato, bop, bop, bop. If you use the D sound where the breath is still going, but the tongue pinches off the breath, it's a legato. So you have this can't hum that high. But how smooth can you get this? And I'll show it to you. I will show you this riff. I used to practice this in college every day. Okay, so let me show you this little riff here that you're going to do, and I'm sure people in the comments are going to write what it is. Your pinky's going to go on the 10th fret of the A string. And as it's ringing, okay, goes back to our first section of this lesson. As it's ringing, your middle finger wants to come down to the 8th fret of the D string, and as soon as you make contact, you can take that pinky off. You want these notes welded together. You don't want this. You don't want that dead space. You want then first finger to 7th fret of the G string, and as soon as you make contact with your first finger, then you can let go of your middle finger. And then ring finger to the 8th fret of the B string. Let's start there. 1, 2, 3, 4. All plucking down, by the way, down plucks, gentle. And now first finger is going to reach up to the 6th fret of the high E string while your middle finger is attached to the 8th fret. And you're probably like, whoa, 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 what's going on? The idea of smoothness is staying on the note that you're playing and caring for that note while moving to the next note. You don't want to sound like this, because that's not the song. And then your pinky, while this finger stays still, pinky stretches up to the 10th fret of the high E string. If I'm going too fast, you can rewind, hit the gear icon, slow me down to 75% or 50%. I sound a little drunk when you do it. It's quite funny. And then while that pinky is holding, you're going to come down to the 8th fret with your first finger and bar the 8th fret of the B and E string, and you can pluck up from the E. And now, as I'm doing this, I'm going to show you the whole riff, but as I'm doing this, I am breathing through it. I'm thinking about the smoothness of that riff. I'm using my D sound, not my B, the D sound. The breath is still going. I'm not stopping at my lips. And I'm trying to make sure that my fingers are playing what my mouth, my throat, my head is hearing. Like do, 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 do. The middle finger, 9th fret of the G, all plucking up, then ring finger, check this out, comes down the 10th fret of the D and A. Okay, with this bar here, and that maintains our smoothness. Then you stretch while your ring finger's connected. You gotta let that thing ring to the 7th fret of the A string. That's a huge stretch, but that's the idea of being smooth. If you can't stretch and hold the note you are on while trying to reach for another note, and this note pulls off, you'll hear it. And that's not smooth. So the idea of being smooth, it comes from two things: singing through it, choosing the right kind of vocab with your lips, whether it's a ba-ba-ba or a do-do-do, and that will show you whether it's staccato or whether it is legato, and then realizing you need to hold the notes physically down while you're reaching to the next note, and not letting go until it's absolutely the last second. I showed you this example with your bar chords. Keeping that note ringing and learning how to keep a note ringing, while thinking about another note is a quintessential task to guitar. And so this little riff, you want to practice. The last thing for scale work that you really want to practice is just a basic pentatonic, and you're going to want to say B's and D's. Now, if you say the B's like bop 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 bop, that's staccato, and you want to hear that bop 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 bop. Now, I'll do it without me saying it, but listen for the pauses. And how do you pause? Well, I'm just kind of letting go of the pressure. All right, just playing and letting go of the pressure, not coming off the string. This is staccato. Legato. Now this one's kind of like the monkey bars, okay? Now I don't know if you were, I was not a good monkey bar person, but there were kids in grade school that did those monkey bars and made it look so easy, and I kind of just hung there and was like, oh my god, what do I do? And when I play this next exercise, I feel like being one of those kids that just kind of like, they kind of just like went right through the wrong direction, kind of like this, and they kind of had a nice momentum anyway. Hello to my elementary school friends. All right, so for influencing this video, the idea is the staccato is not legato. For this, you want to be attached to these monkey bars and swinging, where my index stays still, my pinky plays, my pinky stays still, hold that note, then my first finger, this one stays down, stretches up, does not let go. Now my ring finger's holding the note, it transfers it off to the D string. Think about a baton race. You're handing the baton off to the next runner, but you're not letting go of it until it's time to let go of the baton. And you can practice the stretching, but then you can get, some speed into it. And you go backwards, holding every note while you stretch. And don't lie to yourselves. I know that, that your brain's gonna say you're doing it, but you gotta really listen and breathe through it. And again, sing along, right? Make the notes connect. You get the idea. You need the sing along, you need the stretch, you need to make sure these notes are welded together and there's no spaces between. And so, if you practice these things consciously and you come up with your own exercises, or if you want to practice with me on my Patreon page, which I love to have you there, because that's really about where the practice sessions are on how to master these things. This will make you a better player when it comes to soloing with speed. Playing staccato, playing legato. And you'll understand how to breathe through it. You'll understand that you need to hold things down while stretching. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I don't know how long it is, but thanks for being here, and really try to do this stuff. Don't lie to yourself. Hum through it, sing through it, make sure you're stretching. If your hands hurt, that's a good thing. It means you're kind of reworking them. But thank you for joining me on this odd man out type StichMethod lesson, but I thought it was nonetheless important for the people, of course, who need it. Again, I'll see you soon. Again, I'm saying all my words over and over again. Subscribe and share if you like, blah, blah, blah. See you soon. Bye-bye.